I was very spoilt at the beginning of my career, I have to say. So before we started Tate & Co in 2007, I worked at Grimshaw Architects. This is my personal journey in timber, if you like. And I was the project architect for something called the Core at the Eden Project, which is the Eden Project Education Facilities. And it was a double curved, glulam framed grid shell structure. The first double curved glulam structure in the UK, and I think only the second or third in Europe, based on a phylotactic pattern, which is the mathematics of all plant growth. It was all super insulated, triple glazed with warm celled recycled insulation. And I was totally spoiled, I have to say. That was my first ever building. So I thought that's what all buildings are made from. And then when we started the practice, we then went into, timber framed houses. So again, I sort of marched through timber framing. It's only when you start doing larger buildings that I found out that not all buildings are made of timber, to be totally honest. That brings me full circle then to our kind of largest project to date as an office. So if you think about the two seminal projects in kind of our career, if you like, there's the Core, but then the thing we finished a couple of years ago now is the new Creative Centre for York St John University, which won the Structural Timber Awards Education Project of the Year. Thank you very much, STA. Which is a majority timber framed building where, we've really dug into how far can you push timber frame into a building that's actually technically quite tough in terms of the performance it's got to achieve. And the great thing about the Creative Centre is, pushing timber frame on that building gave us some great outcomes, both from operationally. So it's the EUI, energy use intensity, is about 73 kilowatt hours per square metre per year. That's better than the batting average for buildings of that nature, which are about 85 to 90. But the really key metric is that we had an upfront carbon of about 800 kilograms equivalent per square metre, or just under that, which is ahead of the climate challenge for the RBA 2030 climate challenge. So, it gave us some really great outcomes. It also gave us a really beautiful building, and, they had an increase in applications by, I think, 23% or something, the year we finished the building, showing people around it. It's got this really nice, comfortable timber framed atrium that gets students hanging out and talking to each other. So in university parlance, it's called a third space, but you and I would call it a place to hang out. So I think we have a sort of slightly self-selecting client group, based on the work on the website. I mean, essentially, whenever we do something that is new build and not a sort of retrofit of a building, it is generally timber frame. So I think we tend to have clients who come to us because that's what they want. And our perception is that base of clients is growing in the UK. So our perception is that there's more people there and that's what they want. And I don't think that's just a kind of, spiritual desire to have timber, although that kind of is where I am with it slightly. But, I think there's also kind of metrics. So we just did a pitch for a large institutional client, for example, and one of their stated targets was 300 kilograms of CO2 per square metre embodied carbon, which is a timber frame, basically, with lots of other things too, lack of concrete. So there's real institutional desire to push at this, I think, now, both in terms of like the metrics of it and also in terms of kind of the health and well-being benefits. I think the thing that's really important, there's three things, and two of them are happening now all the time, which is great. So one of them is a better sort of consultant base, if you like. So you need really good structural engineers and you need quantity surveyors that understand this thing and kind of cost it correctly. So that kind of consultant base of people who understand timber has got loads better over the sort of 15 years that we've been trying to push timber frames. That's thing number one. Thing number two is the contractor base. And we've talked about this, like, honestly, the contractor base in the UK is now so much stronger than it was. You've got some really wonderful people. We love working with Glulam Solutions. We love working with Xylotech. There's these brilliant companies which you can approach early doors in the process to get some really strong advice about how to get timber frames into your projects. You can get some cost advice, because the timber frame decision happens at RBA stages 2 and 3. It doesn't happen later. It's quite a fundamental decision. But I think the third thing we're still really starting, which is the idea of the actual base of where's the timber coming from in the UK. So I don't think we have the best local supply chain for timber in the UK. And the type of timber that we've got available doesn't lend itself to larger scale construction right now. So that is something that will take time, but I'm sure that we can get through, as a country in the UK. There are a lot of great institutions out there, promoting this stuff and talking about it. Like, we love the Structural Timber Awards, for example. I know I should say that, but places like Trada, really good to go and get advice from. But the other thing is also, honestly, people using timber frame are a certain kind of people at the moment. They're going to share information. So everyone in the consultant base I was talking about who's into timber frames, whatever you ask them, they're going to share information. Like, we've got a knowledge hub on our website where we, openly tell everyone how we've detailed stuff and how we've done stuff. So it's a really open kind of information source, if you like, for people to get that information. But what I'd also say is the, timber frame contractors we find are a pretty good sort, in terms of early engagement, talking to you, giving you advice, working out if you can get it into your project and afford it. They're really used to having those early stage 2, stage 3 conversations early on in the project. So they kind of really get it. So if you want to do, or if you're thinking about doing a timber frame on your building, my really strong advice would be get the right consultant team in, and then as early as possible in the process, start talking to the timber frame subcontractors, because they can really help you push it through and they know the answers.